Today I'm showing you a different non-meta way to build a $500 gaming PC, and hopefully this build can help me tackle our next Valorant gaming challenge. Let's have a look. Today's video is sponsored by Corsair and specifically their new K55 RGB Pro XT keyboard, which is definitely targeted at you budget ballers. Not only are you of course getting all the per key RGB customization options from the IQ software, but these 6 programmable macro buttons on the left are perfect for you streamers out there because you can control them to do whatever you want, such as switching your streaming scenes, playing some GIFs or sounds, etc. The K55 RGB Pro XT is also IP42 rated for dust and spill resistance. It comes with a soft texture detachable palm rest, and it's also rocking these dedicated volume and media keys, which are honestly almost mandatory in my book these days. Start your kill streak now and pick up a Corsair K55 RGB Pro XT for yourself by visiting that first link down in the description. Alright, so jumping straight into the parts list for this one, we'll talk about why this build is a little off meta these days once we get to the graphics card, but first up is the CPU, and this is the first generation Ryzen 5 1500X. Although a few years old at this point and still questionable on whether or not it'll support Windows 11, the 1500X is still plenty powerful for these budget builds as it's rocking 4 cores and 8 threads with a boost clock of up to 3.7 gigahertz right out of the box. It also has a ridiculously huge upgrade potential in the future if you pair it with a proper motherboard, which I didn't for this build just so I can make it as cheap as possible. This here is the Asus Prime A320M-K, which is a micro ATX board, and I only paid $52 for it on Amazon Warehouse. I keep telling you guys, Amazon Warehouse is the place to go for some budget motherboard deals. On Prime Day, I scooped up some B450 Tomahawk motherboards for around this same price point. Please go there if you're in need of a used motherboard. Next up, we have the RAM, and this here is yet another kit of the Crucial Ballistics 2x 8GB sticks that are clocked at 3000 megahertz, but unlike usual, this is actually the white version, as you can clearly see. White is always more expensive for DDR4 RAM these days, and I actually didn't find this kit on a sale. I paid the normal pricing of $87 brand new off Amazon. Definitely keep in mind that you can save a bit of money if you bought these in black, but remember, aesthetics over everything in the ZTT world. While we're talking about aesthetics, we might as well talk about a few of these Enermax products. First up is the case, and big thanks to them for sending this out. This is the Enermax Marble Shell MS20, and it's definitely rocking a unique design up here at the front, but I actually like it. It's certainly not maximizing airflow without a full front mesh panel, but there are some breathable areas here, and with the RGB shining through, I think it actually looks pretty neat. I'm also a big fan of the PSU basement with the cutout so I can install some green vinyl to match our color scheme. That's yet again some vivid carbon fiber vinyl, and you guys know they always have me hooked up for these custom vinyl jobs. Underneath that vinyl strip is obviously our PSU, yet another Enermax product, and this is the CyberBron 500 watt 80 plus bronze certified PSU. This is a non-modular unit, and unfortunately it's only rated tier D on the LTT list, so it's certainly fine for a budget system like this, but I wouldn't recommend pairing it with any higher end components. And for our last Enermax product, we have the RGB fans, and these are the Squaw ARGB white fans, and these are also rocking a pretty unique design to them. Instead of a perfect circle, these are a bit more like a rounded square. The front RGB strip is solid while the back is dotted, and overall I don't think I've ever seen fans like these before, but I'm always down to try new ones out like this, and I think it looks pretty cool. Now I did try to fit this Enermax ETS F40-FS white in here, which is a pretty dope looking white CPU cooler, but during the Twitch live stream, I live stream every single one of these PC builds over on twitch.tv/SaxTechTurf, by the way. There we discovered that because of the smaller form factor micro ATX motherboard, I actually couldn't get the CPU cooler to fit without hitting the graphics card, so I had to simply install the stock Wraith cooler that the Ryzen came with. Not a huge biggie in my book, but definitely something to keep in mind. And moving along this parts list, we get to the SSD, and this is the King DN 1TB 2.5-inch drive, but I would definitely recommend the 500GB drive on a very budget system like this. I don't think these King DN SSDs are particularly great or anything, but I found this on a pretty great sale, and you can always find these for super cheap if you're trying to save as much money as possible. And last up, before we talk about the graphics card, we of course have some cable extensions. Obviously, I'm gonna install these even on a super cheap system like this, and I got these green cables from a brand that I've literally never even heard of. You guys know that I'm usually rocking something like Asia Horse or Formula Mod cables, but I didn't like the green color tint on any of those brands, so I had to settle for this knockoff brand instead. These cables actually weren't too bad, and I do think the color is almost 100% on point, so I'm definitely happy with this selection. So with that out of the way, let's finally talk about this graphics card, but before I tell you what it is, let's quickly remember what a typical $500 gaming PC looks like here in 2021. With a GPU shortage, a albeit finally turning around, which I couldn't be any more excited about, buying a $500 gaming PC in 2021 usually consists of a Ryzen APU with either a 3200G or a 3400G. These APUs are great for what they are, I've always advocated for them, but even in 1080p low, they can't really handle the tougher to run games, and the experience just isn't that great with them. I've made some APU builds like that in the past, so check them out if you haven't already, but today we are exploring a different option, which is the budget first generation Ryzen 5, like I said earlier, which you can pick up from AliExpress for around $86, and then pairing that with an RX 560 4GB model, which you can also pick up from AliExpress for relatively cheap. Yep, this is just a Sapphire RX 560 4GB model, and these are readily available on AliExpress for around $130, which isn't anything to write home about, but it's not terrible, but these will perform significantly better than like a Ryzen 3 3200G. Now the one downfall here is that although you do get a better gaming experience today, the upgrade path for a build like this isn't as attractive as an APU build. If you buy an APU build with the proper power supply, all you need to do is eventually buy a graphics card, and you compare that 3200G or 3400G with something beefy like a GTX 1660 Super or maybe even an RTX 2060. With the 1500X, remember we had to save money on the CPU, that way we could afford a dedicated GPU today, you're gonna run into bottlenecking a little earlier, especially compared to the Ryzen 5 3400G. This is something that you'll obviously have to decide for yourself, but either way, let's take a look at the final parts list before getting into the next Valorant gaming challenge and then the rest of these benchmarks. All in all, this build would set you back just a tad over $500 right now before adding in the aesthetics. Remember, I don't add those to my final parts total because you can achieve the same level of performance without them. But if you are trying to copy this build 100%, you'd have to pay an extra 50 to 60 bucks, which honestly isn't that bad for how baller this PC looks. But we are gonna have to move that parts list aside and get into this Valorant gaming challenge, and sorry for the lack of variety on this one, but I just need to redeem myself with another unranked win in Valorant. Last time I wasn't able to walk out of there with a dub, but that was with a really budget $350 gaming PC, so hopefully the increased performance of this one, and hopefully teammates that aren't garbage like last time, should be enough to secure the victory. I honestly can't believe that you have to go through the competitive ranking process that Valorant already has, but before you can even do that, you have to win 10 unrated matches, which is just a huge barrier to entry to someone like me that just wants to hop in there and just see what my ranking is. To be honest, I feel like the algorithm will instantly rank me somewhere around Immortal or Radiant right from the get-go, but apparently just like everyone else, I gotta pay my dues with these unrated wins first and then do the placement matches. To go alongside with this $500 gaming PC though, my secret weapon of choice is this new headset from Creative, which is the SXFI Air Gamer headset, and oh boy am I excited to try this one out. This headset won not just 21 and not just 22, but 23 CES awards, and rightfully so it seems. Since it's built from Creative, you absolutely have that guarantee that not only are the games and explosions going to sound amazing with the 50mm drivers and 7.1 holographic surround sound, but this will also be a great experience for music and movies as well. It's also rocking a super comfortable, breathable, perforated plush leather ear cup design. We'll see soon how this Commander microphone quality sounds like once I start gaming, but it also sports intuitive touch controls on the side, so you can do things like play pause, change the volume, etc. Links to this headset are down in the description, by the way. Without further ado, let's jump into this Valorant gaming challenge. Once again, the mission is simple. I gotta hop into an unrated match, secure the dub, and get one step closer to securing that Valorant competitive placement, which will most likely be Immortal or Radiant.
Feeling locked and loaded, not leaving this chair until we come out of here with a dub. Let's go. Kill number 1, first blood, let's go, baby. Oh, this is why we have a guy AFK. He didn't even pick up the spike. Look at this. Oh, there he goes. Okay, never mind. We might be good. Okay. 2 on 4. Oh, now he gives me the spike. Okay. Yeah, good move, guy. That's exactly what we needed. Okay, sit down. My team sucks. This is bad. This is real bad. Ugh. Oh my god, now it's 1-on-1. Please. Yes, thank you. On the board. Okay, here we go. The comeback starts now. There we go. Nice. Sit down, son. I got it. I'll win the game for us. Let's go. 3-3. We tied it up. There we go. Ooh, that was a long-range headshot. Let's go. Oh, and another one. Let's go, baby. There we go. GG. 5-4, we got the lead. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. All right, halftime. We currently have a lead of 7-5. We actually turned things around quickly. Things are looking pretty good. MVP, if you will. I got you guys. I got you. All right, 10-10, man. This is going to come down to the wire. I got to dial this in. Max Boyd, let's go. Oh, I just bought the wrong gun. Is a Phantom okay? I feel like I'm going to win the game on the Phantom. I can just feel it. See? I told you, man. I told you. One guy left. Can I actually do it? Oh, we got the dub. Let's go, baby. All right, guys. We successfully accomplished our mission, got the dub, one game closer to getting our official rank here in Valorant, but let's continue on with these benchmarks.
All right, so moving on here, we got to get through the rest of these benchmarks real quickly. Just like always, I did upload the extended benchmarking run with 20 different games over on my second YouTube channel, ZTT Extras, but here we'll start with Valheim and in 1080p with low settings. I was happy to see we got over the 60 FPS mark with 63. After that was CSGO, definitely an easier to run title, even on the 1500X, and in 1080p with pro settings, I got 218 FPS. The exact opposite of an easy to run game was next, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and with using the built-in benchmarking tool in 1080p with low settings, I got 40 FPS. Remember that this game will almost always crush a budget system like this. Apex Legends followed up after that, and in 1080p with low settings, I got a very playable 78 frames per second. Next up, I tested Rainbow Six Siege with its built-in benchmarking tool, and in 1080p low, I got 137. For another tougher to run game, we have Outriders, and in 1080p low, I got a pretty low, but honestly still definitely playable 42 FPS. Fortnite followed up after that, and in 1080p with pro settings, I got 145 FPS, which was certainly enough frames to get a kill during the benchmarking run. Warzone followed up after that, got another kill this benchmarking run obviously, and in 1080p with low settings, I got 49 FPS. And then finally, we have 3D Mark Time Spy yet again for a consistent benchmark across every single one of my build guides, and this $500 gaming PC cranked out a pretty budget score honestly of 1,974. Be sure to let me know what you think of this system and if you would prefer something like this over an APU build. And speaking of which, feel free to click the video that's on the screen now because that is an APU build example, so you can compare that to something like this. But just like always, I hope you enjoyed this video.